welcome to Motivational Monday. This week, I want to talk about advice, how to know what advice to follow, how to know who to seek advice from, and what to do with advice that you feel like is a little bit off. A lot of times, you're given advice even when your only intention of telling that person was to just vent. And unsolicited advice is actually one of my pet peeves. Reason for that is because, like I said, sometimes people just want to vent. Sometimes they just want a listening ear, but the receiving party may be so hell bent on giving advice that you're interrupting the person from venting. You're interrupting the person from getting it off of their chest, and you don't even know the whole story, and you're already telling them what the problem is or how to fix the problem, and you haven't given them the opportunity to fully express the problem. So that is one of my pet peeves, and I try really, really hard to be careful not to provide unsolicited advice. So when someone's coming to me and they have a problem, I really just try to just listen. I may ask questions to fully understand the scenario or to gather a deeper understanding of what's bothering them, but I make a genuine effort to make sure that I'm just listening. Because I feel like it's not really fair for someone to come to me with all of these problems and I almost belittle their problem by not even letting them finish before I interject with, this is what you do, this is how you fix it. With that being said, if you are provided with advice, I suggest that you guys check the source. And when I say check the source, what I mean by that is making sure that it's a legitimate source. And I'm not saying everyone has to be an expert on something. However, would you ask a homeless person for financial advice? Probably not. So you want to check the source by making sure that the person knows what they're speaking about and making sure that their intent is pure. Is their intent to hurt you or to help you? Because there are people out here who really don't care if you succeed. So if this is somebody that's not shown that they're invested in your life, take their advice with a grain of salt. And I'm not saying that they may not have valid advice, but if you don't know what their true intentions are, I suggest that you take that advice and compare it to something that you trust or someone else's advice that you trust. Don't just take it at face value because that's the advice they gave if they have no genuine buy-in to what you're saying. And learn to detect a person's if they're being genuine. And I think that'll help you understand what their intent is. Because even somebody that you may have met off the street may not have any personal investment in you. But if they're being genuine, you can probably take their advice as well. For example, I was at work, and this was about a year and some change ago, but this lady had mentioned that her and her husband had been married for 50 something years. And I just asked her for what her advice was. She didn't know me. She didn't know anything about me. She had no buy into my life. But I can tell that what she was saying was really genuine. It was coming from her heart, and she was speaking from her experiences. Um, for me, I like to get advice from people who are getting it right. So if you haven't done what I'm looking to do, I can only value your advice but so much. Not to say that you don't have any value, but I'd rather go to someone who got it right. If you've been divorced 3, 4 times, no offense to you and no judgment whatsoever, but I choose not to get marriage advice from that. I want to get marriage advice from somebody who got it right once because that's my goal. That's what I'm aiming for. And I understand you can learn from your mistakes, but if you haven't applied those lessons to your mistakes to get it right, I want to get to the source. I want to get right down to it. I don't want to learn the hard way. I try to avoid that as much as possible. And so when it comes down to financial advice, I go straight to the source. Who do I know that has gotten it right? Let me ask that person. When it comes to relationship advice, I try to seek out people who have been getting it right. People in my age group who may have gotten it right. People older than me who may have gotten it right. But I'm not willing to go to someone who hasn't gotten it right. I just want to get right to the source. With building my business, I go to my career coach. He has not only gotten it right for himself, but has proven that he knows how to teach it as well. He's gotten several people to that place. So I look to him for that advice. I also do my research, and I also look at people who I've seen, maybe celebrities and things like that, but I do my research and understand who has gotten it right, who has what I want, and okay, how did they get there? What allowed them to get there? What's allowing them to stay there? Um, and just something that I'm very passionate about is not speaking on what you haven't experienced. So I'm very careful not to give marriage advice. I've never been married. I can't tell you what a marriage is like. I'm cautious not to give parenting advice. I've never been a parent. I haven't experienced it. And I challenge you all to be careful what type of advice you're giving and also what type of judgment you're passing to those who are doing something. If you've never experienced that, you can't genuinely judge that person. You shouldn't judge anybody at all. But you have no room for judgment because you haven't walked in those shoes. Now, somebody's grandparent who has 5 kids and has 15 grandkids or whatever the case, you've been through parenting. So maybe you can give advice on parenting and maybe you can give advice. Maybe you have room to judge. I don't really know. But what I know is that I try not to speak on what I haven't experienced. So if I haven't gone through that and if I haven't learned something from those experiences, in my opinion, I really don't have anything to speak on it. I really don't. Um, I think that's the part of life is you go through those experiences so that you can grow, so that you can learn from it. And I read this quote. It said, wisdom is healed pain. So the pain that you go through in life is teaching you something. And those lessons that you choose to learn or choose not to learn can or cannot contribute to your wisdom. So you build wisdom over time. That's why older people are so wise. They've been through so much. They've grown. They've experienced. They've been through several stages of life. I'm 25. Can I give advice to somebody going through a midlife crisis? No. And I don't aim to. But what I can do is give advice to people who are in my age group, who are going through the same things I'm going through, people who are younger than me, who are about to embrace the things that I've been through, who I can reach down and help somebody. I'm not saying I can't help somebody who's older than me, but that's not my goal. I don't aim to pretend to know everything. And I think that's the healthy balance between giving advice. Just because I haven't experienced everything doesn't mean I can't give advice on something. And even giving advice to older people. If I've experienced it, then I can speak on it. So, with that being said, I actually do want to hear you guys' best piece of advice. What's the one thing that you've heard somebody tell you that you hold on to and that you strive for deeply? I would say the best piece of advice I've ever gotten. I think it's one that I'm learning now, and that's putting yourself first and the importance of putting yourself first. Because if I take care of me, then I have the energy and the strength to be there for other people. And I've adjusted. That's a work in progress for me. But I used to pour so much into everybody else and have nothing left for myself. But I have to be healthy. I have to be energized. I have to be rested in order to be there for everyone else. So I want to hear what your best advice is that you absolutely strive for and that you hold dear in your heart. All right, thanks.